Um, the Elijah reading that we didn't have was, I think, pretty much explained it. I'll just go through the story again. So it all started with King Ahab. And King Ahab was a king of Israel about 800 years before Christ. King Ahab was, he entered into one of those marriages for political gain. And so he married Jezebel. Jezebel was a Sidonite from Sidon. Jezebel, she didn't worship the God of Israel. She worshipped their own gods, which were the Baals. Well, when Elijah heard about this, he wasn't happy at all, of course, because he was a prophet of the God of Israel. So he went to King Ahab and said, because you've done this, there'll be no more rain until you've changed your ways. So it stopped raining, in fact, and then we have 2 or 3 chapters where it's not raining and the situation is getting worse. And eventually, Elijah goes back to Ahab, and they've got to sort this out somehow. They decide that they'll have a contest between the God of Israel and the Baals, these fertility gods, the Baals. So they go up Mount Carmel, and they get a couple of bulls, and they build a couple of altars. King Ahab and Jezebel had arranged for, there were 400 prophets of Baal, or 450, one of the two, and there were another 400 prophets of Asherah, I think it is. So it's 850 prophets calling down fire on the bull on the top of Mount Carmel. And of course, nothing happened. So then Elijah says, right, watch this. And he digs a trench around his bull, around his altar, fills it with water. Now, where they got the water from after all this time, I've no idea. But they filled it with water, poured water all over the bull. Elijah calls down fire, and of course the bull is done in an instant. So what Elijah does, the people say, okay, we'll go back to the God of Israel. Elijah puts all the prophets to the sword. He kills all the lot of them, which infuriates Jezebel because they're her gang. So Jezebel says, that Elijah, you're as good as dead if I get hold of you. Elijah goes on the run. Is this just me, or is this... Okay. Right, okay. I'll just carry on, shall I? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, it's switched. Yes, John.
Does this happen every week? What am I supposed to be trying? Talking? Oh, I'm good at that. So Jezebel was not very happy with old Elijah, and the reading which we're not going to have was when Elijah goes on the run, and he really is exhausted. He is absolutely done in. He's had his contest with the Baals and won. They've had all these years of drought, and he feels that he's the only one. He says to God, he says, I'm the only one left. I'm on my own. There's nobody else. It's just me. Is it just me? And which is why he just gets so despondent and gets so down. And really, his plea to God is that he would rather die than carry on. And that's when the angel comes and brings him the refreshment of sleep. You know, he slept for ages, and then when he woke up, the angel made him go to sleep again. Do you know, sometimes I think we feel as though people are, you know, if they need a little nap in the afternoon, that they somehow feel guilty. But no, to cope sometimes with things that life throws at us, a bit of sleep, a bit of exercise, and a few little treats in terms of diet, but good diet also. So the New Testament reading is one which, again, I think we can interpret it as being one where we can place ourselves in similar situations. When, see, Luke in this passage, this is right at the beginning of Jesus' ministry. In Luke 1 and 2, we've got all the angels and the shepherds and, you know, the birth of Jesus. But Luke chapter 4, we go right to the beginning of Jesus' ministry. Where does Jesus go? He goes out into the desert. And he hears the voices of temptation. And it may be that, you know, that's when we're trying to figure stuff out as well, that a good place to go is somewhere else. This is a good gospel message for you. Sometimes we need holidays. Sometimes you need to take a break. Sometimes it needs to go somewhere else to take a fresh perspective on something. So when you're out of a situation, sometimes it makes more sense to be looking in at something and say, oh yes. And, you know, those voices might come to us as, oh, well, you know, you should be doing this, or you should be doing that, or that's your priority, or you've forgotten to do this, or you've failed to do that, or, do you know, why are you doing this in the first place? We hear those voices. And being in places where we can just take time out and get a different perspective, reflect on things, is a good and healthy thing to do. Now, is that what Jesus was doing? Were those voices of temptation, were challenging him as to what kind of ministry he might have, whether it be one about doing miracles and getting glory for himself, or throwing himself off the temple parapets and being some kind of superhero that people might follow? Well, no, but in that space, Jesus worked it out, figured it out, and came, and then he was invigorated to start that ministry. He knew his purpose. He was focused. And so here's that gospel message. Sometimes we need to take time out. That being worn out and burnt out is not healthy either for ourselves or for anyone else.